view from the chair. Welcome back to A View from the Chair. I am Patrice Jordan Robinson, Chair of the Memphis City Council, District 3 Representative. It is my hope that today's show gives you, our listeners, as well as viewers, upcoming entrepreneurs. We're going to be talking about their views about what's going on in Whitehaven and throughout our city. And for those of you looking for a career change, some insight on your next move. So without further delay, let me introduce you to my guest today. His name is Patrick, we call him Trey Carter, president of the Olympic Career Training Institute and a native Memphian whose roots come right out of Whitehaven, right here in our Bluff City. He's going to take us through his journey and how the work at Olympic Career Training Institute can help you reach the next level.
Funking up your airwaves and jamming the good information in your ear. Once again, it's Funky Politics.
Funky Politics.
Funky Politics. Welcome to A View with the Chair.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
You know, I want to say this, Trey. I am so proud of you. You've grown up in the Whitehaven community, a friend of my nephew, you know, my son. So I guess that makes me an old lady. But you have worked hard and you have made your family proud. Why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I'm a native Memphian, born and raised in Memphis, but specifically in the Whitehaven area. Went to school 1st through 9th grade at John P. Freeman Optional School, which is right there at Tulane and Holmes Road. I also lifelong member of Middle Baptist Church, Whitehaven. Was christened at that church and been there since the Angel Choir and the Usher Board. So I've been at church my whole life, and I've just been a native son of Memphis, but more importantly, the Whitehaven area.
You can tell them about where you went to high school. I won't be angry.
Well, I attended White Station High School, not in Whitehaven, but they had a very good basketball program and academic program, and I had dreams of going to the NBA back then, so I thought maybe this would be opportunity going to White Station to have a better basketball opportunity along with academics.
Okay. So where did you go to college?
I attended Florida A&M University, the Mobley School of Business, which was, and it still is, one of the premier business programs coming straight out of an HBCU. It was the best of both worlds. I was able to learn the cutting edge competencies needed for Fortune 500 companies and global entities, as well as being a family-oriented atmosphere with people who look like me from all over the United States. I met so many different people from everywhere from New York to California and all across Florida and the southern states. And you start to learn different culture, regionalisms, even of your own folks. So it was very good. And I have some lifelong friends to that day who are doing very well as entrepreneurs, as well as in different fields such as law and business, you name it. So it's a very good experience.
So let me ask you a question. It is the desire of most parents for their children to go to school and come back and bring their talent to Memphis. What was your drive to come back home to Memphis?
Well, one of my drives was that I knew leaving Memphis, this was back in 2001 when I graduated and was headed to Tallahassee, Florida. I saw where Memphis was, and I had a somewhat of a street level view because my father was an entrepreneur here, and he would take me along with him throughout the years. So and he had a staffing firm as well as a car dealership. And one of the things you're going to learn from both sides is you're usually going to learn where people are in life. When people want to buy a car and they need to get financing, you get to see certain things and the plight of their ability to get a car, or if they're denied, what was holding them back. As well as on the job side with Olympic staffing, people usually come to you when they're looking for employment. And so you get to see what has been going on in their lives or what they were able to do. Because a lot of times you're asking them, what skills do you have? What type of things can you do? And when they start to scratch the back of their head and say, well, I don't know, I've cut some grass, but I've also done something, and they really didn't have a tangible job skill, I knew right then that my city had a lot of people who wanted jobs, but may not have had the ability and skill to get certain jobs. And I knew whatever I learned in school, take that knowledge and bring it back home and hopefully make the city better than it was when I was growing up.
So now, when you were growing up, what did your father do? I think everybody that's over 35 should know him.
Well, I think one of the things I like to share with him about him, as well as something that he instilled in me, was.
What's his name first?
His name is Pat Carter. So I'm the third. That's why I get Trey, but he's Pat Carter. He was the first black car dealership owner in Memphis, Tennessee, with Pat Carter Pontiac. And this is back in, I think, 1978, I believe, when he first got it. This was before I was born in 83. So he had the dealership before I was even born. But one thing is about his path before then that really was something that I guess I take with me is his work ethic. He started off actually when he was 7 or 8 years old with a lemonade stand. And when he started that stand and he made money, he started collecting the money, but only enough to where he was able to buy a lawnmower. And so after he got enough to buy a lawnmower, he was in the lemonade and lawn business. and so certain principles like that I took with me, but he also, as he got older, he, about 17, 18, played basketball, and he was ultimately enlisted into the Navy, where he did play basketball, but he also sold cars, and that's where the beginning of the car side had. And he had to learn how to talk to any and everyone, because it wasn't only a white community or a black community or anything like this. He just said he needed to be able to talk to people, anybody, any class, any race, any gender. And so some of those things he learned helped him in the car business. So he started off as a salesman. However, being such he was a top salesman at Pontiac. He worked for Sid Carroll Pontiac. That used to be on Union Avenue. And he was a top salesperson, not just at Sid Carroll Pontiac, but within the region for 5 years in a row. Wow. And at that point in time, that's why Sid Carroll reached out to General Motors to say, hey, this guy, and granted, he's making me a lot of money, but I think he would be the perfect person. For back then, there were yet to be an African-American car dealership owner, and GM was ready to open the door for individuals, African-Americans, to have their dealership. My dad was one of the first 8 in that first cohort to go to General Motors to get their first dealership.
So I guess the listening and viewing audience knows that's where you got your entrepreneurial spirit.
Oh yeah, he would work. He learned, but as he learned, he did. So one of the things, he didn't wait. He didn't have any fear. He had a lot of gall, which helps you when you're in business. You can't be afraid. You got to go out there. Even if you fail, you got to go out there and try.
Try and try again. So let's not leave your mother out. You want to introduce your mother?
Oh yes. So my mother, she worked as a school teacher for most of her life as an occupation, but she was very community involved. She served as chairwoman of the AXO competition with NAACP, and she also served on the NAACP board, but also in the other
And
spaces.
She's still over there with the NAACP?
She's still working with the NAACP, got a mask on and still working.
And her name is?
Her name is MP Carter. Some people know as Maddie Pearl. That's what the MP stands for, Maddie Pearl Carter.
She's going to be mad with you telling people Maddie Pearl.
She don't mind. She don't mind. But yeah, so she gave a lot of her time beyond the classroom to community efforts, to bringing equity to the community. She also served on the former Memphis Area Teachers Credit Union Board, but now Orion Federal Credit Union. She served on that, as well as the MATA Board. And she was one of the ones who championed way back when the bringing of the light rail to Memphis, which now we know as the trolleys. Yes. She was a part of that. They both have been very entrepreneurial, but also very passionate about Memphis and doing things to hopefully give it a better chance to be a city of choice.
So talk to us about your development of your business and what you're doing.
Okay. Well, I keep busy as well. But as you mentioned, I am the president of Olympic Career Training Institute, which I started in 2010, early January 2010. And that was a response to me moving back to Memphis. And I joined my father's staffing firm, as I mentioned. And we had very good success with meeting with different companies such as Nike and Williams-Sonoma, you name it. And they all would say, I need people who can work in our distribution center, even with FedEx. I need people who work in our distribution centers who have the ability to drive pieces of equipment like forklifts, drive trucks, also be able to use other pieces of machinery and have the ability to make our businesses more competitive. And so we would leave the boardroom, suits and ties, with a contract to provide to people. So we had a good opportunity on that side, but the work really begins. You got to loosen that tie up and now find the people that they want. And that's where I found a very hard struggle. People wanted jobs, but they didn't have the ability to drive trucks, drive forklifts, use other pieces of equipment. However, they had the want and desire to do it. And so I would always look around and say, where can I send these people who are very interested in the work to go get this skill and come right back to us to go to work? But these places didn't exist at the time. And so I said, Dad, 1 out of 10 people that walk through this door have the skill we need. We're sending 9 people out the door with bad news of, unfortunately, we can't hire you because you can't do what we need you to do. So I said, why are we helping 1 out of 10? We need to be in the business of helping 9 out of the 10. And so he gave me the wherewithal to learn, what does it mean to do a training? I didn't know anything about it. What is a training school? How does it work? Who do you regulate it by? So he gave me about a year. This was back in 2009. And so by 2010, I knew everything I needed to know. And he allowed me to step out on my own and start Olympic Career Training Institute. So since 2010, I was able then to actually train. I have a facility where people can learn how to drive forklifts, all different versions of the forklifts, learn how to drive 18-wheelers. But beyond just learning, I know that's one setup. That's the hard skill. How do you drive this? How do you cut it on? How do you pick something up? But there also is that bridge between the day they learn the skill and the day they get the job. And so we work with that as well, because everyone is not a very keen job seeker. What do they need to have in their repertoire to have either a resume? How do you sign up for these different jobs? What do you need to do when it's time for you to go on the job that first day? What things you need to be equipped with beyond just the ability to drive? So we do hand in hand soft skills plus hard skills, which makes hopefully a very good bridge from someone to being unemployed to having gainful employment.
Okay, and we call those employability skills.
There you go.
Talk to me about the industry, especially around the airport. And we live in the Whitehaven area. District 3 has 42% of all industry. Let's talk about FedEx, UPS, and how your program can feed people into those different organizations. I got lots of warehouses, trucking companies, you name it. The logistics industry is huge in my district.
Well, the good thing about it, there was always, Memphis is a distribution capital of the United States of America. So we are the nation's distribution center. Everything flows through Memphis. However, we've been there for a while. We're having now a resurgence of more distribution centers. So there's a lot of new construction. I see it in your district going up and down Holmes Road. There's some new construction going on of several distribution centers, as well as the need for employees is going up. So we're adding more people. We're having a need for more people to be trained because these jobs are just blowing up. They're constantly adding. And when logistics jobs usually come in groves. It's not one person, 2 people. They need 200 people, 500 people, 1,000 people. These are some very large 1,000,000 square foot distribution centers that require a lot of people to work there. So when there's a new warehouse going up, we know that the employment rate is going to definitely decrease because they're going to be hiring a lot of people. And so we're glad to be in the middle of that and have relationships not only with the companies but with the community, so people know where to come when it's time to go to work if they want to learn a new skill or upgrade a skill. We're there for them.
You do know we have an Amazon too at Tullahoma and Holmes Road, a distribution center. Yes. So talk to me about if I want to recommend someone to come to your training. How long is the training for each of the different paths, and how do we get from there to those companies?
All right. So if someone just say, hey, I'm interested in leaving my job or starting a new career and I want to learn how to drive forklifts, they can come to us. We offer the class twice a week, and they can come into our location and we provide the training for an individual on our different pieces of equipment. And we also help them with the job placement side. So once they've completed and they are able to drive the lifts, they still need to know where they can go to work. So
how long is that program?
It can take 1 to 2 days. They come
That's
in.
all?
That's
And
all.
be certified?
And be certified. And also one of the things we do, which is something that I think a lot of people don't do, we provide what's called, I guess, a highlight reel or a video resume. So that when they go to these employers, even if they want to go somewhere, someplace, if they live in some part of, we get a lot of people from the Mississippi area, a lot of people from Arkansas. And so they go back to their city. We got people come as far as Jackson, Mississippi and Little Rock. And so they have to go back to Little Rock, but they have a video that they can show. Not only, they can't just say they know how to drive a lift. They have video of them driving the lifts. And so
I love that. That's innovation in the working.
There you go. So a lot of times people say all the time, oh, I can drive this and I can do that. But once you have a video, say, hey, look, recruiter or hiring manager, here's me driving this type of lift. Here's me driving this type of lift. So if you really were questioning if I could drive, here you go. Keep that on record.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I'm sorry to cut you off. So how long is the truck driving training?
4 to 8 weeks.
Okay. And is it just day, evening? How do you work out?
Morning and afternoons.
Okay.
We don't really have them driving when the sun goes down, just for safety.
Okay.
Have them driving at night. So we are, and that's 5 days a week. So Monday through Friday. And we can take people from Mississippi, Arkansas, and also, of course, Tennessee.
Okay. And when they complete that training, talk to me about the testing and the licensing and that kind of thing.
So, yeah, we've been blessed to have an all-encompassing program. So beyond just the training itself, we do have the ability to get individuals tested, which I know some people might not know about the trucking industry, but before you get to a CDL license, you do have to pass a state Department of Transportation test. And we do have the ability to provide the road skills evaluation test for anyone seeking in the Mississippi, Tennessee, and Arkansas areas that test, which traditionally a DMV would offer that test. However, we can offer that test as well. We're a third-party entity that can provide the test.
Okay. So we know that the logistic industry is a strong growth industry in the whole Mid-South area. So
Correct.
Talk to us just a little bit about how what you're doing is helping to support that industry.
Well, one is just very simply the technical skills. You have to, by law and by OSHA standards, have certain skills to be able to operate big pieces of equipment, especially for trucks. You have to have, from the Department of Motor Vehicles, you have to have a certified CDL license. And so we're able to give people those credentials and certificates so that they can pass that first barrier to being employed in those areas. Next is just the relationships we built over the 10 years with trucking companies as well as with logistics companies. Again, so when they're looking for people to hire, they usually will reach out to us as well. And so when we have people who graduate, again, they might not be the best job seekers in the world, but our help, they're able to then identify different jobs that may be a good fit for them because we're linking them directly with the companies.
So how does your organization work with people who may have had a felony?
Well, with trucking, it's a very felon-friendly industry.
Felon-friendly?
Felon-friendly. Yes,
Okay.
We've actually had several individuals who spent over 15 years in prison, get out, spend 5 weeks with us, get their CDL license, and have been driving ever since, making over $60,000 a year.
Wow.
And so now there are certain stipulations to what type of convictions, and depending on the company, it depends on what their tolerance is for certain felonies. But traditionally speaking, those that have been from, maybe with drug-related offenses, driving offenses, they'll let those slide. And there's case by case on other offenses. But we've had several individuals from the Department of Corrections, the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and locally the Shelby County jails, who've all been able to successfully get hired after they were, even though they had a felony on their record.
Okay. So let's talk. I have a lot of people to approach the city council about legalizing marijuana. How does that impact your business?
It doesn't impact me directly. However, when an employer wants to hire, granted, that's all internal controls that they have, what they will hire for. If someone has a positive drug test or if someone has a prior drug offense to using drugs, they have it's within their own rules of what they will and will not hire for. But one of the things that I do work on is speaking with the HR manager, speaking with the leadership at different companies, just to allow a second chance. Even if your policy says marijuana use or either having a marijuana infraction traditionally would not make someone employable, sometimes let's give it a try. And maybe after 90 days, if you see this person can do what they say, keep them on board. And so we've had
So how has that worked out? Look, how has that worked out?
It's worked out actually very well. We work with some other nonprofits as well. Now, granted, we've only had about 30 to 40 people, which that's a lot of people. However, I know this situation is the thousands of people who may have been affected by it. So we're just doing what we can because, again, certain companies, just for whatever sake, they just don't want to be the one known as the second chance employer. Now, granted, they'll take a few, but they don't want to be known as just a place to take any and everybody. And I understand it. However, we're doing what we can. So in your opinion, based on the companies that you're working with, are most of our industry still testing for THC? Most are, especially if it's in their system. Now, I understand they've done it, because especially when you start talking about driving equipment, the liability goes up so much higher. If someone has been who tests positive behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler or behind the wheel of a forklift, and they are positive for THC, the liability is so high for those companies. If they were to have a bad accident and someone get hurt or tear up something, they just don't want that to happen, and give that a try. But I still feel overall there are a lot of industries that are now becoming a little more lax in their hiring policies. Okay. So let me ask you something. How has the pandemic, COVID-19, impacted your business as well as the industry that you support? I was just reading a report today, and specific to my business, it's just we've had just different protocols. Granted, everyone now must wear a mask. We do give everyone a temperature check before they can come in as a student. We ask the questions about have they been ever tested positive? Have they been around people with positive? So we just do the certain CDC guidelines, and our class numbers are a lot smaller because we want to allow for social distancing. So we do have smaller class sizes just so that everybody can have enough space between each other. But the industry, the logistics and distribution industry, has grown. There's been a lot less deliveries, if you will, to larger companies, because we've seen a lot of companies have gone bankrupt, and you've seen how that's hit them. However, the home delivery has blown up because everybody now is at home ordering packages from Amazon and e-shopping. So they can't get enough people driving these trucks and vans to get things to your door. They're just not dropping them off at the offices and at the malls like they used to. Okay. So like you have to have a CDL to drive on the big 18-wheeler trucks. What about the smaller vans? Do they have to have special certification or licensing? No, you just need to have a valid driver's license. And depending on if you will be driving people, you would have to have a passenger endorsement. Okay. But you won't need to have a CDL. No, you won't have to have a CDL. Okay. So you're saying that you've made your classes smaller, but have your applicants decreased or increased? Oh, no, it's increased. Really? It's increased because a lot of people have come from different industries who never thought about being in logistics. We have quite a few people who have come from, for instance, a lot of people coming from the rental car industry who used to work at different rental car agencies at the airport. I think it's slowing down just due to the air travel slowing down so much that rental cars have slowed down because people are not flying for business like they used to, so they're not renting cars. So rental car places we train probably with 20, 30 people from the rental car different agencies. And then also just some different industries in general that require large amounts of people. So a lot of people who worked at the FedEx Forum, the Forum is pretty much shut down. So a lot of those people who have come over and gotten trained, some people from other places that just had a lot of people. For instance, I don't know if the word was out, but like, for instance, the Cook Convention Center and things that hosted conventions, things that hosted games and football. A lot of them won't be going back to work anytime soon because there won't be any basketball games and concerts and things like that. So they needed to find a secondary income while they're waiting. And then also the restaurant industry. We've had a lot of people from restaurants who have now gotten trained, and I don't know if they're working in the industry, but they did get their license or CDL.
Okay. Walk the viewing audience, or the listener today about the process of applying for your organization. What do they need to bring with them? Talk to us about the application.
For a forklift, it's very simple. You must be a minimum of 18 years of age and have a valid ID. You don't have to have a driver's license, but you do need to have a state-issued ID. You can be from any state. You don't have to be just from Tennessee. And you must be able-bodied to be able to stand up on your feet and see and have just general physical ability speak. And we also provide training in English and Spanish. So even for those who speak Spanish, they can come as well. On the CDL side, a person must have a valid driver's license, be 21 years of age, be able to pass the Department of Transportation physical and drug test. And that drug test is different from an employer's drug test. This drug test with the Department of Transportation is something that will stick with you for the rest of your life. So I try to let people know, if you think you might not pass, you don't want to take it, because once you get a ding, you can't take it again for another year. And so you don't want to sideline yourself if you're kind of on the fence of, I don't know what'll happen after I take this test. But also, you must also be able to
and talk to us about the physical abilities test. What do they need
the physical,
to be able to do?
It just attests everything. You test your vision, it tests your blood pressure, and if you have any other ailments that may be a detriment to you behind the wheel. So if you have sleep apnea, for instance, or if you have any heart conditions, or in things like that, if you have very bad diabetes, there will need to be some type of medical. You need to bring all your medicine in, or either get some medicine if you're having some issues, because behind the wheel, you don't want to be carrying 80,000 pounds and have any type of physical issue that, we didn't know about. So that's it.
So do they have to go to a doctor?
They will. That physical, they go to a doctor. We have a DOT physician who will give them that test. Takes about 30, 45 minutes. They will need to take some, do a drug test as well as doing the physical. You need to, cover your eye and read the letters like you're at an eye test, and you need to be able to see different colors and things, because you need to know the difference between the green light and the red light, So,
so if you're colorblind, you got a problem.
Possibly.
Okay.
Or if you're a business, we have some people who just have yet to get glasses. And once they take that test, we realize you can see, but you need to get a prescription. You need to get some prescription glasses before you get behind the wheel.
Do they have to come?
Go ahead.
Do they have to come prepared with a resume?
No, not at all. You do not have to have a single thing. Just, trust me, the gentlemen who were coming from the prison system did not have a resume. They had been.
But he could fill out the application.
Yeah, you can fill out an application. So what we do on the first week of class, we have them fill out an applications for different carriers. And that way, by the time they finish in those 4 to 8 weeks, they already have a job lined up before they even graduate.
Well, we talked about a lot today, and 30 minutes goes by really fast. I'd love you to leave the audience or our listeners and viewers with some helpful tips that will help them achieve great success in their career goals. You want to share some of those?
Well, sure. One is just like I mentioned earlier, you got to get started. A lot of planning is good, and a business plan, and making a lot of different, plans, but you got to put those plans in action. And sometimes you find that those plans will change altogether once you actually get started. So I suggest getting started is one thing that you want to do. And also, this was something I'll say back in the day, get to know your neighbor, start building relationships in your community, because you'll never know how large things can get, but you can definitely learn from your neighbor and having those collaborative efforts. Because I want to thank you for all that you do, because I mentioned some down. I see a lot of these like mugging. Got mugging coffee.
Thank you.
Coffee house here. And we got the Leaf cigars right there. Elvis Presley. I knew the guy growing up. Also, you have the Electrolife restaurant right there on Elvis Presley, and the T-shirt lab, and Whitehaven is
Have you been to Etc. yet?
I have.
On Marlin?
Right there on Marlin.
Yes.
So with Adrena, Jack, I know those my people. So we definitely want to thank you for all that you do for the Whitehaven area. But before you could do that, you had to get started. You rolled up your sleeves and got started. So that's one of the things I just say, just get to it. And as you go, do the best you can, but get started.
Thank you. And I don't just represent Whitehaven. I represent Oak Haven, Hickory Hill, and Fox Meadows. And we want to see that kind of growth in those areas as well. Well, Trey, our time is out, and I certainly want to thank you for sharing with us on today. And I know that the listening audience will really be able to benefit from this. If they don't use the skills that you need for themselves, they have family, friends, and children who need to visit you really soon.
We look forward to having any and everyone come by and get some skills.
And again, it's called Olympic Career Training Institute. We thank you for those educational opportunities. And thanks, Trey, for sharing on today.
R&R on Sports.
The great legendary Ed Too Tall Jones.
Years ago, when the Division I schools started recruiting black athletes, they took care of you very well.
It's R&R on Sports.
In closing, be sure to visit our Facebook page and leave your questions and comments, and I'll be sure to respond in a timely manner. You have been visiting with us today, A View from the Chair. I am Patrice Jordan Robinson, Council Chair and District 3 Representative. God bless you all, and see you next time here on A View from the Chair. A View from the Chair, from the chair, from the chair.
Recorded at Kudzukian Studios. Directed, produced, and distributed by Kudzukian.